your job as an actor is to understand who this person is. That is fundamentally your job, is to work out the nooks and crannies, what makes them tick, what makes them sad, all of this stuff. And that's why I find it so interesting, the whole acting thing. It's because it demands a huge amount of empathy on your part to understand these people, because it's got nothing to do with snakes, it's got nothing to do with spiders, it's about something else. And that's what you're trying to work out. You're trying to work out what underneath everything is the thing they're really fighting for.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Harry Melling is an actor. He sat down with me in cyberspace to talk about the work.
You come from a long line of actors in your family. So when you were born, did they hold you up and say, another actor? And I mean that in a real, was this just expected of you in a certain way?
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. My parents aren't actors, which was good, which was useful. They're both from an artistic background. They're both artists. My dad's an illustrator, and my mum is also she's a children's illustrator. But the acting side of the family was my mum's dad, and then my mum's brothers, and now my cousins. So there's a lot of us. And so I never felt the expectation of having to be an actor. It was just something that I was around a lot. I went to the theatre as a kid when I probably shouldn't have been in the audience. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of fell in love with the idea of make-believe, really, and the idea of playing. And I think that's really crucial. To me, as an actor, what I really enjoy about it is the play of it. And so that's kind of where I caught the bug very early on. And my parents didn't really necessarily push me into it. They just kind of gently supported it. And then I got the opportunity to do it at a very, very young age. It's a funny one. I mean, I guess, what you're born into, the things that are around you must influence you in such a way, but I never felt the expectation of, this is what I should be doing because of, X, Y, Z. It was just something that I very much fell in love with and wanted to try and pursue.
I still think that my uncle was an actor, and it just feels like my interest in acting is like hereditary. I don't know why. It feels like that in some way. I mean, and if I really believe that, then I believe that there's some it's the mystic in me that really believes that. I believe that there's some kind of but you could pick it up in other ways, just like any kind of mystical thing. But when the mystical thing, I don't know.
I agree. I mean, there was this moment. A friend of mine is a massive Doctor Who fan. And I'm, to my shame, I'm not. I've never really, got on board with the whole thing. He was a huge Doctor Who fan, so big in fact that he started to write a book about all the Doctors. And he said to me, "Would you come over and would you talk about your granddad?" And I said, "Well, I don't know a lot about my granddad. He passed away before I was born, so I don't know how useful that would be." But he said, "No, just come over and we'll watch an episode, and then I'll just interview you afterwards about it." And I thought, "Okay, great. That sounds like a good idea." So we watched this episode, and my granddad, as the second Doctor Who, did this particular thing. It was this wave he did at a particular moment, and I was watching it, and I thought to myself, I would have done that wave the exact same way, and I don't know what that is. I mean, and then I started thinking, well, maybe it is this hereditary thing of it's in the blood, so but there was something about that wave that I thought I would have done that wave the exact same way, and everything about it would have been the exact same touch of that wave and that particular acting choice.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Just speaking specifically about what you needed as a young actor, being interested, like you said, in playing, interested after seeing plays as a young child. But what was it that acting in the Harry Potter films did for you as an acting kind of education? Or was it something that you had to later kind of work to get out of? In other words, were there bad habits that were formed in there, or was it not quite the pure kind of experience that you, knowing the actor you are now or wanted to be, was that experience what you needed?
I think the thing I take away from it now, looking back, and it was a long time ago, because I was 10 when I was first on the set. I think the thing that I take away from it is how useful it was to be that naive to the industry, to the way of making film.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you arrive on set, you're told, stand there, say this line looking that way, cut. And as a kid, as a 10-year-old kid, you do precisely that. You find your mark, you say your line, cut. Okay, on to the next. And there's a certain bliss in it being such a simple activity. And the naivety behind it was something that sometimes I look back on and think, I wonder if I could get back to the place of just going, I do this, I do this, I do this. Because sometimes, you know, you get older and you start to question everything, rightly so. But you can get yourself into a bit of a pickle sometimes. And actually, it's better just to go, okay, what am I doing here? You know, in terms of the logistics of a scene, what am I actually doing here? And so I sometimes think of that. In terms of what else I've taken away from it, I think I learned a lot from Richard Griffiths and Fiona Shaw, because they were, you know, the senior actors, so to speak. And I think I learned this idea of play very much from them, about how a scene, in order for a scene to be alive, there has to be a certain energy to it, a certain playfulness to it, an element of what could happen. So I definitely learned that, but it's very hard to articulate because, like I said, it was so long ago. And also beyond that, you learn a routine. You learn the routine of filmmaking, the patience involved in it, how it all works, cameras moving, what we're doing now in terms of we're repeating it from this angle, we need to see this. So you learn the mechanics of it. You know, anything beyond that. To be honest, I was a massive, when I was younger, I just loved theatre so much. That was kind of my main energy was going to the theatre a lot, and doing as much as I could in terms of accessing Shakespeare and you know, the great plays, Chekhov's, Ibsen's, all of that was very much my background growing up. So that was kind of that's where my attention went, most definitely. I think you develop bad habits all the time. I don't think, obviously you're younger, so you don't know as much, but I can go through films now going, oh, you're doing that a lot. Do you know what I mean? You're developing bad habits all the time. I think maybe something that I might have learned from the Potters was, like you say, you know, it was a yearly event in my life. I did it for a month or so, and then went away, had school, had a normal life, and I came back to the studios for the next film. So I guess you come in with the expectations of what it's going to be, and I think maybe that is a bad habit, in terms of actually everything has to be new when it comes to film. That's how film lives, in its aliveness and its newness. So that was an interesting lesson. But I think all of these things came later. I don't think I was actively aware of them at the time. I think they probably started coming to me whilst at drama school, which I would say would be the next stage in that evolution, so to speak, because you're doing it every single day. And although it's a theatre-based, I would say it was a theatre-based training, you're learning all the time, and you're going at an incredible speed. And so I think maybe that's when I started my experience of being on the Potter films for 10 years. Maybe that kind of came into focus a bit more. It's very hard to identify those bad habits, but I remember thinking, I can't remember what film, but I remember thinking, oh, I have to really come back to these films as if I've never done them before.
You know, some people steal scenes your scenes steal movies. Buster Scruggs. I mean, I heard about your performance before I heard about anything else with this movie. Like, you got to see it for this guy. You got to see what this guy's doing. And I mean, even the Lost City of Z, like that character, I mean, is so alive and it's on screen for so little time. When you have a role like this, that another actor might just be like, all right, I know what they want here. I'm just going to pop this out. This guy's not, it's not the movie. But it felt like this guy is alive outside the frame. How do you approach that and make those ingredients not feel like they're ingredients, but like baked in and alive?
Well, I think that's the thing you're always chasing, is the aliveness of it. In terms of the various ingredients, I think you're right. I think it could be the protagonist in a big story, and you can have one scene in another film or story. Your approach remains exactly the same. You have to present someone, a real person who is alive, and you need to present them in the most interesting way possible. So research, reading. You find anything. Like I said, you just grab anything that might take you somewhere, and then you might realize later on that that's a really bad path. I shouldn't go down there because that takes me onto something else that I don't want to explore. But the point is, I've gone there, and I know that's not for me. But I then think the key thing at the end of the journey. So you're in the car driving to set. You've got your costume on, you've got your makeup on, and you're about to shoot. I think the key thing then is to forget it all, is to completely forget it all, because hopefully by forgetting you ever did any work on it whatsoever, by doing that you won't see the work. You won't feel the ingredients. You won't see what's got into it because it's not there. So that, I guess, and that's the approach on every single role I've ever done. But that approach was found in drama school, I'd say. That's when I sort of learned that approach, which was work very hard and then forget about it. Because by forgetting about it, you're then very much trying to get to something that is fresh and new and alive. And that can be one scene, that could be one word, or that could be an entire film. It doesn't matter. But the goal is always the same.
Isn't this a crazy endeavor? Can you imagine a brain surgeon saying, the key to this is I've studied every single, and then I forget it right before I do the surgery. You got to forget it all. This is why I'm a good surgeon.
You know what you're doing? Yeah, here's the scissors, go.
Now, this limbless thespian in Buster Scruggs, did you make bold choices in the audition that they responded to, or did they help you build that in the way that was presented?
I remember the attached character description, and it was very articulate, as you would expect it being the Coens, of what they were looking for. And I remember them saying he should speak as if from the olden day of sort of verse speaking. And so that was a big clue into who this guy was from the off. That was before I met him. That was just me putting myself on tape, which was the first stage in that casting process for me. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go for it. That's what they want. I'm just going to look at the O'Tools. I'm going to look at the Richard Harrises. I'm going to look at the Burtons to see how they handle the language. And that was my sort of entry point, so to speak, with it all. And that was responded to, and then eventually I met them. And so I knew that I was on the right path-ish. And I just kept going with that, really. And then the idea of, well, if this is his performance voice, then what is his other voice? Oh, we don't hear it at all. Okay, that's interesting. So this must be a very particular aspect of him that he presents to the world in a very particular situation. So what's this other life he has? So that was kind of as for bold, I mean, it's weird. People, and I see why they say it. You know, you like to make a bold choice, Harry, and I'm like, well, yes, I guess I do, but I don't look at work going, oh, what bold choice can I do here? It's something that it's more a question of what can I offer to this role? You know, what can I give this role to make it fizz, to make it happen, to make it be exciting. It's never me looking for you know, I don't know, a moment to sort of.
And it never feels like that for. I mean, it never feels like that for us.
Oh, good.
No, it really doesn't. That's why someone might not know that all of these performances are from one person.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, I do get that a lot, and I take that as a real compliment, to be honest. Often people are saying, were you in that and that, and
yeah,
I go, oh yes, I was. And I could imagine some actors being very frustrated, you know, with the fact that people aren't connecting the dots, so to speak. But actually I find there's a great that's a great thing to have up your sleeve.
You mentioned before this idea of like Fiona Shaw and others were instilling in you this idea that a scene happening between people and it being play. And when you were saying that, I was thinking, was there ever a time when it felt like the director was a hindrance to that play, or was oblivious to what you actors were trying to do?
Well, first and foremost, every single director is different in terms of how they work. And it's your job as an actor to really facilitate that. Another useful thing I think about when I think about acting sometimes is good directors often set boundary points in terms of, i.e. the frame's there, or we're wide, or, you know, they set certain boundaries for you. And sometimes those boundaries can be very tight. And they might say, you know, on this bit, I need a how to put it, I need a more direct, straighter delivery on this particular line, which might not allow, which may, you know, you may feel restricted by that, but instead of feeling restricted by that, you've got to, you know, within that little box you're in, you've got to work out how you live in that little box, so to speak. You know, it's never think of it like a director's trying to constrict you or restrict you from exploring the character, because that is what they want. But it just, you know, just the logistics or the geography of that might be slightly different. And I think that's the way to attack it, as opposed to, you know, going away back to the chair between takes, going, oh no, what am I doing? They want this and I'm not doing that. And because you can get in a very tricky place if you're trying to do something that you feel you need to do in order to please something or someone. That's a very difficult territory to be in, I think, because it will never truly be yours. So it's about making sure it's yours, but at all times is facilitating what the director needs in order to be in the editing room, in order to get what he needs. So that's the sort of juggling act. And, you know, different directors work in different ways. Other directors are very specific about what they need. And some directors are far more, let's see what happens. And both work equally brilliantly, and both are a challenge in themselves. So it's about serving the director. I think that's the most important thing we can do.
I saw Joel Cohen in the grocery store. I said, "Hey Joel, the people recognize you?" And his face went white and he went no, and he ran away. That's my own experience with Joel Cohen. But they seem like such orchestrators of their vision. Are you as an actor just another part of their vision, or do you feel like you're getting what you need from somebody like this? And you've worked with some, you know, visionaries like, you know, James Gray too, in this way. Are these kind of people, if you don't want to talk about somebody specifically, but are these kind of people that have these grand visions, are they giving actors what they need as well?
I think looking at Joel and Ethan, their genius is that they have the films in their heads already, and I'm not the first actor to say that that's worked with them. They have it frame by frame in their heads, and so, you know, on the outside you might think, well, then how as an actor how do I fit into this? But their genius is the fact that they allow you in, and they allow you to really go places that they haven't yet filled in. And that's their genius. They frame you, and then within that frame you're able to play, to try things out, to get things wrong, and you really feel this incredible sense of freedom being one of their films. But at the same time, the tautness of knowing that they've already made this film. It's in their heads. I can't remember, I think it was I could be wrong. I remember seeing an interview with Roger Deakins, who did a lot of the Coen Brothers films, and said that I think it was one of the films, could have been Fargo, but there was only, they storyboard every single film very carefully, and I think he said there was only one frame that wasn't used or something. It was like one sort of picture that wasn't used within the final edit, or maybe it was something along the lines of every single shot they shot via one film wasn't used. And I just, that's such a crazy thought, when sometimes you're working with directors who like to cover, but they just know exactly what they need. And so actually fitting into that it's a real joy, because all the work is there for you. And I think it's the same with James Gray, although that was a while back. He was very specific with what he wanted, but he liked to see what you were going to do to it. And I think that's it's the invitation, isn't it? That's the thing you're always looking for as an actor, the invitation to be a part of this film.
Everybody wants to talk about the spiders with you.
Everybody.
In The Devil all the time on Netflix. If people haven't seen it yet, they don't know what we're talking about, but if they have, they know what we're talking about immediately. Now, I of course thought it was CGI. I'm a filmmaker. I don't know what every single car scene annoys me because I could see the green screen, you know, everyone. I'm just so pissed about car scenes. But yet I thought those were fake spiders. You know, I mean, I have no... But tell me if I'm wrong. This seems like the only thing you don't have to worry about, because it's literally a visceral reaction happening to you as an actor, right? I mean, you're pouring spiders on yourself. You don't have to, whatever happens, you can react to. Am I right?
You're fine. You're absolutely imagine trying to do that with CGI. I mean, my word.
Yeah.
And the spider, you know, imagine being, you know, the director Antonio being behind the monitor going, and the spiders are on your face, and you're scared. I mean, it'd be a nightmare. It'd be an absolute nightmare. Yeah. And I get this question all the time doing the press, you know, how are the spiders? And I kept saying that was just not a concern on any level whatsoever. You know, the concern was the scene. The concern was making sure that room was alive in the way that those rooms are alive.
I'm always fascinated by these scenes where there's a lot of extras and you're probably doing it over and over again. And you have to kind of, they have their job of making themselves feel like they're into you, but you have to make them want to feel into you. I mean, is this something that you just obsessed over about this kind of heightened state that you needed to reach, or did that happen because it was done kind of in a long take and you could just ramp up into that? Did that help?
Yeah, absolutely. I think trying to do that sequence and sort of, you know, cut around it, cut into it, cut to the audience, cut back to Roy doing the sermon, that would have been an absolute nightmare. Because like you say, the way those preachers operate, it's all about flow. It's all about rhythm. It's all about flow. It's about the peaks. It's about the troughs. It's about finding the musicality within it. Also, in terms of making that room feel buzzy and alive, imagine hearing that sermon 20 odd times, I mean, by the end of it, you'd just be,
Yeah.
the audience would be completely dead.
Yeah.
So the fact that Antonio went, let's do it as one continuous move. I think there's a cut in between, but it was originally one continuous move.
Mm-hmm.
That solved so many problems for everyone. It meant the audience didn't know the spiders were happening because they didn't. It meant that, after the song, we went straight into it. There was a feeling like we were in this room. And hopefully, I mean, I don't know, but hopefully that's in the scene. This element of, what's going to happen? What are they going to do? Because something is slightly awry here.
Yes.
So all of that stuff was free, like you say, like throwing the spiders on my face. All of that stuff was free. So my main job was to get everyone into this hysteria, or into this sort of, I don't know, revulsion at the idea of what this guy's about to do. So that was the goal of that shooting day. And I think we only did it 3 times. We did the spiders once, and we did that particular sermon 3 times, I think.
How do you approach somebody like this who is, I'm assuming for you, is outside of your world reality in terms of this kind of religious thing, but you can't, you can't like judge that as an actor, right? You can't approach this person as crazy. Or can you? I mean, talk to me about that a little bit.
No, I mean, my stance would be no way. If you start attacking this character and going, well, he's a nutter, you're lost. You're completely lost. I know I would be. I would be completely lost, because your job as an actor is to understand who this person is. That is fundamentally your job. Is to work out the nooks and crannies, what makes them tick, what makes them sad, all of this stuff. And that's why I find it so interesting, the whole acting thing. It's because it demands a huge amount of empathy on your part to understand these people. My way in for Roy was, and this is all down to Antonio, he sent me loads of clips of snake handlers handling snakes. And I watched these clips obsessively over and over and over again, just to see the lengths that they would go to prove their faith, and it's both terrifying, but also very beautiful, because they really do believe it, and they're willing to go to these lengths to prove it to themselves and to everyone else. And that's kind of extraordinary on whatever level you want to sort of judge it on. But the act of doing that is extraordinary. And I would watch these clips again and again and try and understand what these people needed, because it's got nothing to do with snakes. It's got nothing to do with spiders. It's about something else. And that's what you're trying to work out. You're trying to work out what underneath everything is the thing they're really fighting for.
Are you going crazy in COVID time?
Yes and no. I think there's some wonderful things to come out of COVID, which is this the sense of slowing down, of having a lot of time with my partner here in London. It's been a joy. But also there's been atrocious things, people getting ill. The idea of community, of people being together to either see something, even the cinema. I went to the cinema for the first time 3 weeks ago, and I was like, wow, I've missed this so much. Just being in a room with other people watching a film and all sort of gasping at the same moments and laughing at the same. I've missed that. As brilliant as Zoom is, and it's brilliant, but it's weird. It's weird doing this on Zoom. You want to. The whole point of life, I think, is people, and if you're not engaging that, then it feels very peculiar. So yes and no is the answer, and I do miss theatre, and I wonder how it's going to happen, to be honest, because it's a very complicated thing to try and get up and running again.
I hope that one day you'll be in New York, we can sit down again. And it seems like a dream now, but that is my hope. Harry Melling, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Peter. That was a joy, really a joy. Thank you.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of IFP, the Independent Filmmaker Project. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.